Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. And on this stream, we will be speaking about Green Gorilla. We will be speaking about Green Gorilla and him being so slick. Excuse me. Him being so sick that he could slap a MFer. Right? And shout out to Dr. Green Gorilla. And much of I just loved it. I loved the video, right? And what he was speaking about. So let's go through it. Um, so I titled this, I think relationships in the era of conspicuous consumption. Yeah, that we were raised in a anti-black white supremacist system, particularly for my age cohort. Um, I'm a mid 30s millennial. Hyper consumerism, materialism, stuff that I mention often, with a nice heavy dose dousing of neoliberalism, right? Market based valuation on everything. And so, of course, you're going to get much of the conversation that Green Gorilla was speaking of, where a woman is speaking and other men are backing her up in the conversation of, I don't want to be with any man that can't pretty much buy me, right? So I've said this before, right? And I've made sure to make it sound as offensive as humanly possible, without cursing, of course. And because that's what it is. It really is. I need to be bought. I need to have all my bills paid. I need to be put in the lap of luxury. I need to live this opulent life for me to even consider um being in an intimate relationship with you. Not just having sex. Not we're speaking about marriage and relationships here. We're speaking about largely monogamous intimate relationships with the opposite sex. And what you see going on in much of the conversations online, um is this talk of, hey, I can't be down with your program. I can't be this woman because you're not rich enough. You don't have enough money. And for me to entertain this concept of femininity that you have in your head and that I might even have in my head as a woman, I need you to be a baller. And if you can't be a baller, then we can't do this. And I think that that is being said more and more online, but it's been a thing for the longest, right? And shout out to Dr. Green Gorilla for speaking about this. And conspicuous consumption is just using your money and using what you can buy and what you can access to signify class, signify a certain level of status in your society. This is where you get into the Louis bags and the Birkins and the whatever, right? This is where you get into that, right? So what did Sweetie say? If your man can't buy you a Birkin, that's when you get into that type of talk, right? That's where that comes in. And it's understandable, right? It's definitely understandable. Train tracks, train tracks, train tracks. Actually, I did that a little early. Now it's train tracks, train tracks, train tracks. Okay. Um, and so that's where that comes in, right? So if we're what does intimate, monogamous, heterosexual, nuclear families look like in the era of conspicuous consumption? And conspicuous consumption is not something recent, right? But the question still remains, what does it look like in the era of conspicuous consumption, right? Especially, once again, one of my favorite words, neoliberalism, market-based valuation on everything, right? What does it look like? I mean, the women are screaming it. You know, I keep on bringing this brother name up because I said it to him. FD, this is what I was saying to you. Y'all so hyper focused on critiquing the men that the women go largely not critiqued, and so you try to push egalitarianism with the women screaming for the rooftops. Yeah, I don't want that. I want lifestyle, and I want a man to provide it for me. It's not the same if I do it myself, right? And so, how do men get valued in the era where of millionaires and billion? We're living through the era of having a couple of people that are billionaires. I mean, I said not billionaires. Excuse me. A couple of people that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, right? Mark Zuckerberg, the Waltons, with the four or five of them are approaching $100 billion a piece, slowly but surely, right? And that's just in America. You're living through that, right? I use this example every once in a while. For those of you that remember, when Ace Hood and who else was on that song? I woke up in a new Bugatti. Come to find out, for those of you that don't know, the Bugatti Veyron, they made less than 600 of them. A planet with 8 billion people, at the time 7 billion and some change, and there's only 500 and some odd Bugatti Veyrons on the planet. Not in America, not in your state, but on the planet. Right? Why does Mr. Z use that as example? To translate that into how many billionaires there are on the planet. Somewhere less than 3,000 official billionaires, at least on record, right? We live in that era. We live in the era with 8 billion people on planet Earth and only 56 million millionaires out of 8 billion people, not 560 million millionaires, right? Not that. 56 million millionaires. And once again, we already know most of that is their home. Whether it's here in America, whether it's in Britain, whether it's in France, whether it's because it's mainly European countries, whether it's Japan or China or South Korea, because this is pretty much it, or somebody that got some connection to some oil money in the Middle East, right? Or some corrupt official, or maybe not corrupt official, real entrepreneur in Africa or South America somewhere. 56 million millionaires out of 8 billion people on planet Earth. This is why your women sound the way they do. And yes, Detroit. Shout out to Detroit. And he said Rick Ross featuring Ace Hood. Yes, I think it was Rick Ross, right? Was it? I can't remember. Anyway, right? But the point of it is, this is the era that you're living in, and this is why these people sound the way they do, right? Because nobody's checking them. So I wanted to actually use this quote real quick because I thought it was hysterical when when Green Gorilla, Dr. Green Gorilla said, "Find them, F them, and flee." I thought that was hysterical, right? And that was a reference to um you know white guys, right? So Dr. Green Gorilla plays a clip of a black woman. I think it was on a TikTok that was saying, pretty much doing what black women do, which is throw the omniscient, omnipotent white man in black men's faces and essentially try to gaslight us with the fact that white men make sure their women don't work, and white men make sure that they're rich before they do this, and white men this and white men that, and go to the white man then, right? So this young lady says that. Wait, did Mr. Z go out? I probably went out. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys were able to hear me earlier. I think I might have went out. So let me say that again. Because my screen locked and I think I had went out. But yeah, so um, what I was saying was, Dr. Green Gorilla plays a clip from a young. Okay, so I did. Okay, so I did go out. Okay, thank you. Big Kev. Um, Dr. Green Gorilla plays a clip from a young lady pretty much saying these white guys You know, it was just some 50-year-old white guy that walked into her because she worked at the pharmacy or something along those lines. Some 50-year-old white guy walked in, they had a conversation, and he told her make sure she marries for money, or make sure she marries rich, or something along those lines. Like I keep on telling y'all, the white guys will virtue signal their butt off in front of women of color, particularly black women. They will virtue signal their butt off. Now, will they marry a black woman? No. Will they pipe a black woman? Maybe. But oh, they will virtue signal. Oh, that's one thing they will do. So, um, so the quote, find them, F them, and flee, I thought was hysterical coming from Green Gorilla. And once again, he was referencing um these white dudes that black women act as if these white guys are omnipotent and omniscient, right? So all knowing and all seeing, for those of you that don't understand. But yeah, so I should have just pulled a Jason Black, look it up, right? So omnipotent and omniscient, right? So the moral of what I'm getting to is the conspicuous consumption mixed with insane notion of materialism and consumerism, mixed with um, these weird notions of interracial marriage and dating, and what is going to be what you can get out of that, or what you can glean out of that situation. um Black women in particular, it's women of color, but black women in particular, throw in these kind of omnipotent, omniscient white men, the masters of the universe white men, in black men's faces all the damn time, like that's supposed to, like, gaslighting essentially. I like to, but don't think Gorilla ever came up on this. But a few months ago, and me and Shay Sade actually covered this. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Um, months ago, it was maybe like 7 or 8 months ago at this point. Um, some black women, or black women, were online speaking about white guys. You know, when you go on dates with them, they send you money to get your hair done and your nail done. They send you money for this and this. And some black women were saying that on Twitter, and white guys, at least 5 or 6 of them, swarmed her comment section and said, "Who are these white men you're dating? I'm white. I have white friends. We don't do that. Who are these white guys? No, we don't." Right? And it was just, it was hysterical to see white men just like, and essentially, I don't know if the young lady realized what white men were doing there. They were saying, "Stop using us as the tool to hit black men up the head with." That's what the white guys were telling you, ma'am, whether you realized it or not. Why is this important with the conversation that we're having right now? And I'm glad Dr. Green Gorilla brought this up. We need to have a more honest conversation about stay-at-home mothers, right? Money, who's deserving of intimacy and heterosexual relationships. We need to have an honest conversation about hyper consumerism. Like Dr. Green Gorilla said, conspicuous consumption. Thank you for bringing that back up in the conversation, Dr. Green Gorilla. Um, we need to have a real honest conversation about women's fantasies, how they treat men who they think are less than them. Um, Once again, this is how you get the video from the crew with the young lady saying, "Well, if I make more than him, I will mistreat him." Right? This is how you get the other young lady that was speaking on Obsidian channel a couple months ago. Well, actually, maybe a month ago at this point. Pretty much saying, like, if we can't get this type of man, whatever man we're with, we will put him in a temporary man category. Right? This is how you get all of that. Right? And thank you for the super chat, Big Kev. Big Kev said she made that story up, and I do believe that the young lady probably made that story up. But let's assume that she didn't. Let's assume that she didn't make that story up and it's real. Did the white guy ask you for your number? Did y'all go out? I'm not gonna ask if he piped, because probably. But did you get a ring? Okay then. Right? And I think that's, shout out to the brother Edward Anderson. I'm gonna remix some of what he says, and just tell him to go ahead and date out whenever they try to throw these omnipotent, omniscient white dudes in your face. I'm gonna remix that and be like, but did you get the ring though? Right? Because we know it's a gaslighting tactic. We know it is. And for those of us that have worked with white guys, been around white guys, we know how many of them are not interested, and then even the ones that are, how many of them are just see it as target practice. That they just see dating black women having sex with them. But let's be a little nice. Dating black women, they just see it as target practice. And because we understand that they know the racial hierarchy and they appreciate the racial hierarchy far more than black women give white men credit for. Right? But it's important that I say it the way I do say it, right? And I wish this also to Dr. Green Gorilla. Something he already knows. First of all, let's shout Dr. Green Gorilla out. Pretty much nothing Mr. Z is saying is going to be new or revelatory to Dr. Green Gorilla. Like pretty much nothing. I'm just saying it just to say it right at this point. Exercise in rhetoric here, right? Just remixing in my own way. But essentially, what these women are engaging in is, and especially the discourse and the conversation online, and which is, by the way, leaking out in real life. These conversations aren't just limited to online internet conversations with these whimsically cartoonish concepts of like lifestyle, right? No, these women are saying a life of leisure or nothing. A life of leisure or nothing, which once again, like y'all know Mr. Z likes to say, is okay on an individual basis, but then when this starts to become a thing, you end up here. And it makes it more difficult, even more because of unchecked hypergamy. And then women are going to college and they're getting these degrees and they're going into tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, but usually tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. Oftentimes to enter the workforce and work somewhere where they don't need a degree in the first place, or that at the best they will just have a middle management position with the title. So you're speaking about a young woman that's maybe 40, 50, $60,000 in student loan debt, if not 80, 90, 100 and some odd $1,000 in student loan debt, with this insane view of lifestyle, right? If your man can't buy you a Birkin, right? And so many of these women, not all, this part is really not all, but many, a lot, many, right? A lot really are. It's life of leisure or nothing, or the ability to provide life of leisure or nothing. And that thought process being pervasive in your society does lead to kind of what we see what going on now, right? We call it hypergamy. What's the nicer term they're using? Mate assorting or whatever. The nicer phrase that the mainstream media is using to say women's hypergamy, right? Assortative mating. Assortative mating. That's the term. Assortative mating. My apologies. It's not the men really practicing assortative mating. It's the women, and it's really just hypergamy. Once again, what happens when you get a 60-40 split in college enrollment and even a greater gap with college graduation? What happens then? How does hypergamy look in that environment? Right? How does air quotes assortative mating look in that environment? Right? It ain't looking good. Okay, so this is something I really wanted to to speak about. This is probably going to be the main point of this. Black women in the 21st century with the sensibilities of Victorian era white women coming out of Europe primarily, right? So this is where Kim Foster has entered the chat, right? Kim from Fort Harriet has entered the chat with the, and I use this, I like using this as example because I love that she actually said it, right? Which I can't be with no blue collar man. The way I want to practice or the way I want to exercise my class position, I don't want to have to explain certain things. I don't want to, you right? So like, I can't deal with no blue collar man, and there are many white collar but way less have way less income, have way less wealth than Kim does that think the same way. This is how you get that the same sensibilities of as a white woman, upper a bourgeois. By the way, I need to stress that, right? Not all white women from that era, not even most white women from that era. The bourgeoisie from the Victorian era, and you have 21st century black women who think and most importantly feel the same way about class and money in one of the poorest communities in America. You come from one of the poorest communities in America, the black community, the most marginalized community in America for damn sure, who this society has designated as the permanent underclass, and yet you have these concepts of men. Now, what's important to stress here, and shout out to Edward Anderson for saying this, and it's so true. The way these women speak is that if you can't have the most opulent, richest lifestyle, then this dude's in abject poverty, right? There is no gap, or there's only gap, maybe. There is no solidly middle class, no approaching upper middle class, no, right? There is Birkin bags or the flea market, right? Once again, the sensibilities of the bourgeoisie coming out of the Victorian era, right? Meanwhile, trying to gaslight black men about these omnipotent, omniscient non-black men, primarily white men, and what they do and what they provide for their women. Comparing black men to these omnipotent, omniscient white guys, and then obviously deeming black men lacking. Right? That reverberates through your community, the black community, to a large extent, particularly for a certain age group. So what they show is, and I remember looking this up. What they show is, and this is from sociologists, PhD sociologists. Y'all know Mr. Z don't be pulling these type of things out his rear end. Um, we're no longer living in the era with the college educated woman and the non-college educated man, and they still make it work, and they married for 30, 40, 50 years. No, we don't live in that era. We live in the era where she will hold out for the similarly educated or above man, nothing wrong with that, or nothing. So when you have women with these sensibilities, right? Of, and shout out to Dr. Green Gorilla for saying this verbatim, right? Or essentially saying it verbatim. Let me not say he said it verbatim because I might be paraphrasing, but essentially saying, um, yeah. Let me actually get it perfectly right because I have it right here. Yeah, black women from the 21st century with the sensibilities of white women coming out of the Victorian era, right? Now pause for the cause. This is where we get into Martin Luther King. I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house, right? And I'm glad Dr. Green Gorilla covered this. you know, much of the conversation about, and I'm glad, and patting myself on the back for this. When I came into this space and I was like, bro, what is go? Because I remember coming into the Black Manosphere, or making my presence known in the Black Manosphere more is a better way to say it, and just be like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Like, and some people in the Black Manosphere too were almost taking their cues from the women and speaking like, yo, if you're not a baller, you don't deserve no vagina, you don't deserve love, you don't deserve a relationship. And by the way, I also don't think that any adult person necessarily deserves love. I think you have to make yourself lovable to be lovable. But with that said, you know, some of the brothers in this space were talking like that. Now, this is where people say, yeah, but what about Kevin Samuels? Kevin Samuels made it known that he was speaking about a select group, and you could see his backwards way of advocating for blue collar men and regular dudes and American as American pie men in America, right? But he let you know he was talking about the top 10%. He said it over and over again, right? And what was genius about what he was doing was showing, extra average people. There's nothing where most of us are extra average. Extra average looking women who had contempt for extra average looking men and extra average earning men. Why is that important to this conversation? Because this is where we get degular people with the sensibilities and the thought and the feelings, well, sensibilities, feelings of Victorian era white women, right? And let me read these two comments real quick. And Trell Bentley says, to make friends, you got to be friendly. Exactly, right? Exactly. Shout out to all the sisters out there that can't keep a friend for more than 5 years. I'm just saying, you can't keep a friend for more than 5 years, but yet your relationship with your baby daddy went to craps because he ain't ish. Okay, yeah, that's it, right? And D Scott says, just flipped a vehicle crash, just flipped a vehicle crash. Um, and some Keisha that didn't believe in oil changes. Happy hump day. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, right. You just witness a crash, or you just help somebody with flip their car back over from a crash because one of these ladies didn't believe in oil change or something. I think you're saying. I don't know. Right. But you know, back to the topic at hand, right? So it's important that we also stress that over 70% of mothers work in America. Over 70% of mothers work in America. If your household earns over $100,000 a year, you're in the top third of household incomes. So if you own over $100,000 a year, you're in the top. As an individual, you are in the top 10% of Americans. You're in the top what 2 or so% of millennials, Black millennials, right? If you earn some what actually it was what $90,000 a year, you're in the top 2% of Black millennials, right? And if you earn $100,000 a year as a home, as a family, you're in the top third of household incomes, right? Okay, I understand now, D Scott. He said, I'm a tow operator overnight. Back to the topic. Oh, okay. All right. So you had to help flip a car back over. Okay, right. So it's what it's important that we stress over 70% of mothers work in America, and yet we have black women. Let me say that again. Black women, black American women, right? Speaking as if I can't have a baller, then I might as well be single, or I just might as well be out here, have fun with who I want to have fun with, and never take any of this intimacy relationship thing seriously. Which, by the way, is your prerogative. Comes with some consequences, though, right? Because, as the young lady said on Obsidian's channel, they're putting men, particular men, in the temporary man category, right? Thank you, Trell Bentley. Exactly. Baller or bust. Which there's a pun in there somewhere, right? And Kareem says, I see how online hypocritical hyenas, right, are attacking Jonathan Majors on his looks, and then when he ends up with a non-black woman, they gonna be complaining. You know it, Kareem. You know it. What they said, he got the civil rights look. They were going in on him. And that's another point. I thank you for Kareem for segue into that point. Another point, just the absolute mean, catty kind of nature that's encouraged mainly on these online spaces amongst women. And then when you start speaking class and income, you get what we have now, right? You get what we have now. These people are mean. They're a-hole. And then they want a particular lifestyle from a particular man while being mean a-holes, shrewd, rude, right? So now Jonathan Majors got the civil rights. They were going in on Jonathan Majors' look. I saw those comments too, Kareem. Me and a friend spoke about this actually. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm about to go in the drive-thru and get some breakfast. Yeah, hopefully you guys can still hear me. I think it might be a bit of a dead zone if it is. So for a second and come back on the other end when I'm out of this parking lot. But let me know if y'all can hear me well. Okay, so um, something else, Mister. Okay, well, I'm already at the older window. Ha ha ha. Ha. All right, y'all give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back for a couple minutes until I get to the window. All right. Something else Mr. Z has said. I think I first said this on the breakdown. Most white women are Roseanne. They're not real housewives of Orange County. Most American women do have to work. They are working 9 to 5s. They are degular people. They are making their little 30, 35,000, if even 30, 35,000, 40, 45,000, $50,000 a year. Most women in America. Most women have to work. Most mothers have to work. America has refashioned itself into a dual income economy, right? That is important to stress for this conversation because we're listening to people talk that fundamentally don't know what they're talking about, or even worse, they do know and they're using it as a gaslight tool to gaslight black men to work themselves to death to provide these particular women with a lifestyle that these black men still wouldn't be able to provide for them, right? Big Kev, exactly. Exactly, Big Kev. And Big Kev says They're gonna roast something about being roasted. You know it. And shout out to Kareem. Like Kareem said, they go in on Jordan Major's look. He turn around and be with a white woman, and they feel a certain way. Not even a Latina or Asian, yet they feel bad. Ain't nothing chaps black women's rear end than accomplished black man with a white woman. And she's a regular white woman too. She ain't even all that. Part of it is, I would argue, maybe defense mechanism. Okay, there we go. Okay. Because something is going on right now. Give me a second. I'm right back because I'm trying to click on it. There's nothing going on, everyone. Going on. There we go. There we go. Okay. And Mr. Z is back. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And I think we got our functions back because for a second there I could not press the comments. And I don't know what was going on with that. Yeah. But yes. So yeah, they're gonna roast and you know they're gonna end up feeling a certain way when Jonathan Majors pops up. Thank you. And when Jonathan Majors pops up with a non-black woman, okay, now we're back. We're fully back. Okay. It's important that we stress that because what do we see? What I would argue that much of that is defense mechanism, right? So like we and I'm speaking as if I'm a black woman, and I would like to know because I think Toya's in the comments and Kareen obviously is in the comments. Um, what would you ladies say? Like, do y'all see that as defense mechanism? Like, we're so used to like, and I'm saying this like as if I was a black woman, but like we're so used to seeing like celebrity black men that we covet be with non-black women or celebrity black men that we would deem as attractive be with non-black women that we're just gonna start making fun of them off top from now on, right? Because that's the energy I got from the way that these people were going in on Jonathan Majors, right? It came off as a bit too much. It's not just okay. You know what? Yeah, maybe fit dude, but yeah, maybe not my cup of tea. It came off way more. There was way more animosity behind it. Like he just represents so many unattainable black men, so we're just gonna start ripping him apart from now because we don't want to get our hopes up of him being with a black woman, let alone like a black woman, like right, like not racially ambiguous, not any of that, right? So maybe that's Mr. Z, maybe reading way too much into it, but that's the energy that I was seeing when I read those type of comments, right? That we just gonna go in now because we already know he's gonna pop up with a non-black woman or a racially ambiguous black woman at best, right? And D. Scott says, and thank you for the super chat, D. Scott. D. Scott says, there would be a dead spot when you get in those dry ass biscuits. No, I actually went to Wendy's for breakfast. Hysterical. Hysterical. Right? That was hysterical. Right. But something I said, oh yeah, let me get to this, and I'm gonna actually tie this to some of the Jonathan Majors things. So I guess we'll be having two conversations today. Um this morning, better yet. So, and thank you for that comment, Kareem, because it actually allowed me to kind of go, add on some extra stuff to this conversation. Actually, um, as I said before, most women in America are living Roseanne's life. They're not living the Real Housewives of name your city, right? Um, and it's important that I say that because the way many black women speak, divestors, swirlers, and even non-divestors, non-swirlers, the way they gaslight black men is to speak about white men as if they're like these, like I keep on saying, omnipotent, omniscient people, and their wives don't work, and their wives live the lap of luxury, you know, live in the lap of luxury, etc., etc. First of all, even for the stay-at-home moms, they're not walking through stores, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, between Louis bags and whatever super rare, expensive, luxury item. This is where you get once again with Dr. Green Gorilla speaking about conspicuous consumption, right? That's not even your average stay-at-home mother is not living this life. Where are y'all getting this stuff from? Once again, black women born and raised in the 20th and 21st century, right? The later part of the 20th century and early 21st century with the sensibilities of Victorian era white women. Excuse me, bougie or the bourgeoisie of Victorian era white women, right? And it is detrimental to the black community because the black community can't afford for you and your delusions and delusions of grandeur. The black community really can't afford for you to be like, well, it's either a ball or a bust. Shout out to Trell Bentley. Does that mean that we're telling you not to have standards? No, but once again, shout out to Ed. The way you're speaking is as if I can't have that lifestyle, then everything else is poverty. Isn't that what the young lady was getting to on the clip from the crew that Ed covered? If I can't have opulence, then everything else is poverty. Abject poverty, make it worse. If you can't put me on the estate in the mansion on 10, 15 acres, then we're living in a shanty, in a shed, right? Not even an efficiency, in a shed. And like, it sounds hyperbolic. I know for anybody new to Mr. Z's channel, thank you for coming in and listening in. I know what Mr. Z is saying right now sounds hyperbolic. No, these people really mean this though. They mean it. See, it's one thing when it was just these people never showing their face, and they're speaking all type of crazy online, and you wonder if it's a white person trolling and pretending like they're a black woman, and then you come to find out, no, it's really a black woman, and now they're showing their faces, and now they're saying it, and they're standing on it because they meant it, right? Right. So these are the people that we're allowing to tell us, you know, I want to live the life of conspicuous consumption. And if I can't live that life, and the brothers that back them up, if I can't live that life, then what are you doing with your life? Are you a real man if you can't afford me the most opulent lifestyle, the most extravagant lifestyle ever? Are you a real man? Right? What did the white woman say on Courtney Ryan's show, on Courtney Ryan's stream video? Better yet, I'm sorry, I'm saying everything but video, right? Well, I was raised that, if you could spend more than your man makes, then he needs to make more, or something along the line. She said, y'all getting y'all cues from white women like that, or your man should never make. you should never be able to spend more than your man makes, something along those lines, she said, right? And Alba thought these got to be women that were born into money. Courtney Ryan came through and was like, no, half of these women are just extra regular, right? And it's important. Actually, let me tie that the second round of interviews she did. Let's tie that to this conversation. When Courtney Ryan started hitting those young women, remember these are a bunch of women in their 20s. When she started hitting them with the numbers, the real, y'all remember the women that looked at her and said, "Yeah, no, I'm not budging. I'm gonna stay right here." Y'all remember who they were, right? The black ones, black women, right? Black women, the ones who can afford it the least. Now, once again, we're not saying that you shouldn't have standards. You know, when women start hearing this, particularly black women start hearing this, a particular brand of black women, they hear this and they're like, "So you're telling me not to have standards and just to settle for anyone? Stop being extra," right? No, we're telling you you're delusional, but we're not telling you to settle for anything. But once again, that's the part of the mind that says, well, if I can't have the bestest, no, it's not a word, then I might as well have nothing. And that is okay that is an okay sentiment to have as an individual. But a society, definitely the black community, cannot afford to have that sentiment widespread. Just can't, right? It just can't, right? And so what Dr. Green Gorilla was covering, especially in that first hour and a half or so, absolute fire. Absolute fire, right? And it is black men and black women gaslighting other black people, primarily black men, essentially saying, well, if you can't afford, the best lifestyle, maybe you shouldn't have children, maybe you shouldn't get married, maybe you shouldn't be dating, maybe you shouldn't be having sex. You can't afford the most opulent lifestyle. You are not deserving of companionship on that level. Sorry, right? And one of the other comments Kareem said, I thought, he will be a big star, and they're gonna be sweating him. Wait and see. He has a big role in the next Marvel saga, and also starring in Creed 2. Yep, yep, yep. Right. He's Kang the Conqueror in Marvel, and he's gonna be Michael B. Jordan's rival in Creed. Yeah, right. Very true. Very true, Kareem. Very true. Right. But once again, these are very catty. It's a bunch of mean girls that have found they found their people. They found their people online. They have found, excuse me, I'm saying that way wrong. They have found their people online. And so they get off on being catty and mean because they feel like this is some get back, like y'all heard Mrs. Z say before, cosmic retribution towards black men, right? So we will take the image of a black man that other people appreciate for his talent, maybe for his workout, for his fitness, or whatever. Maybe non-black women, or maybe even some black women find attractive, and we will tear him down in public because we feel so offended by you. We will. There are no sacred cows that we won't slay, right? There's nothing that you think is too sacred that we won't go at because we're so offended that we can't get a Jonathan Majors or we can't keep a Jonathan Majors, right? And we want to remind you, black men, that you can never get too high. There's none of you that's good looking enough. There's none of you that are rich enough. There's none of you that is charismatic enough. There's none of you that's anything rich enough, any of it, to not be bought down a couple pegs. Because I just want you to know that you're still a black man. Isn't this like Southern style racism? Right? Like Northeastern style racism is, you know, you can't get too close. You could get high, but you can't get too close. And Southern style racism is you could get close, but you can't get too high. Like this is Southern style racism. Like this is like Negro. Who do you think you are? Right? Like that's what they're engaging. Like Negro. Who do you think you are? You know you still a Negro, right? And there you go. Mr. Donnie Max says, I subscribed to Courtney Ryan after that video. She confessed to making less than 35K on her day job. Bro. And these are the people, y'all. Right? And I didn't know that. Detroit says, yet they so mad while J. Cole and Chris Brown didn't invite black women to the party. I didn't know that. Right. And to the young lady that Dr. Green Gorilla had on, when she said, essentially people can't afford, people are living beyond their means, and that's why we don't have stay-at-home mothers or stay-at-home moms. No, 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 that's not it. Most people can't afford it. They just simply can't afford it. Now, if women decided tomorrow to drop all of the to all of them to go home and say, yeah, we don't want these jobs, um, hire more men and double our husband's income or our boyfriend's income and our baby daddy's income, right? We're all quitting, right? It wouldn't even have to be all. If a good 60% of women to this morning said, yeah, we're not going into work, go hire more men and increase double their income. Yeah, that would change the environment. But short of something like insane like that, yeah, no. Americans simply don't. We have refashioned this economy to be a dual income economy, right? We have fashioned this economy to be a dual income economy, and so that's how it operates. And for you to not be a dual household income, you have to be earning that significantly more. You have to be earning that much more as a man, or let's say you're a stay-at-home husband and your wife works. You have to be earning that much more. And according to to breaking points, and I can't remember who they got their data from, but pretty much you have to be a six-figure household to buy a home at this current moment in time, which, by the way, is only 1/3 of American households. And there you go, just like that. And there you go. So before we even factor in race, you have to be a six-figure household, which is only 1/3 of households in America, to be able to afford a home. And yet black women who are on the socioeconomic bottom with black men, these particular black women we're speaking about, are speaking about extravagance, like ostentatious levels of money, because six figures is still not enough for the lifestyle they're trying to lead, right? Six figures is still not enough. And shout out to the Roger Report for saying that. For being a Raj was the one. Yeah, the 150,000 still ain't enough for the lifestyle they trying to lead. $50,000 Birkin bags. Yeah, you need more. You need to earn more than $150,000 a year to afford a 50,000, 20,000, $40,000 Birkin bag and not bat an eye. Right. But this is the ostentatious type of wealth that these women covet, and it's important that because I think what I kind of failed to do when I had the conversation with FD, and I was trying my hardest, and I think I'm better at it now, is to draw the line between this particular rhetoric and what's going on in the black community on a macro level, even offline. This type of mindset and what's going on what's going on amongst black men and black women, and the schism and the real animosity that's going on right now. Because it's easy to just think of this as just banter on the internet amongst black women, like black women gassing each other up to say more, more foul things, to keep on ratcheting up the rhetoric. It's easy to see it that way, right? But it's bigger than that. It's more insidious than that. And they're taking it offline. That's why I brought up the therapist. That's why I'm covering this today, because this way of thinking, which maybe is more intense on the internet, online, on social media, these people take this stuff offline, right? They take it off the internet. And they really, truly think and feel these things, as evidenced by how many single black people they are, particularly single black women, as evidenced by what Morgan Stanley told you about what 45% of women being childless and single and childless between 2018 and 2030. And that was women in general, not just black women. As evidenced by what Tracy Ellis Ross has said recently. As evidenced by Vivica A. Fox's life. There's a reason why. There's a theme on Mr. Z's channel. Right? So Dr. Green Gorilla covering this also speaks to that theme of the insane rhetoric coming from black men and black women. And then you wonder why some black people that are educated, they're doing well for themselves, and yet they're not in a relationship. They have no children, and they claim to want to have children and be married. But particularly for the women, they're saying, no, I don't even want a man similarly situated on my level. I earn some 40,000, 45,000. He earns 50, 55. That's still not enough for the lifestyle I want to lead. These ways of thinking and feeling do have larger societal ramifications. That's why I'm covering this. Being a black woman in the 21st century with the sensibilities of a Victorian era white woman coming out of Europe is detrimental to the black community. Especially when you consider what it took for those women in that bougie percentage of that group of people, what it took for them to live that. It was the exploitation of your ancestors. Even the way we think about 1950s post-World War II stay-at-home mothers in white America, which once again wasn't all, it was still not even most. They were able to do that because our ancestors were working for them in the homes. Your fathers were the ones that were maintaining the lawn and landscaping. Your mothers were the ones taking care of their children and making their sandwiches. They were able to do that because of cheaper labor, the exploitation of black people. Paying your parents, your grandparents and great grandparents some stupid low money. And making sure your grandparents and great grandparents couldn't compete with them in the workforce. So they had to take these kind of lower level jobs. So the white woman could live that life because your grandfather was barred from competing with white people's grandfathers and great grandfathers. So you're aspiring for a life that was built off of your back, and you're still dealing with the ramifications of today. And think, oh crap, I clicked it off. Sorry, Gold Professor. And Gold Professor said, I would tell them broads empathically, I'm the brother you love to hate. Explicitly said, I make money. I'm in the gym, and my slong will say my slong works. Next, I said empathically. Sorry, emphatically. You know when you have to sigh because you think you're gonna mispronounce the word. Yeah, emphatically. Yes. Eh, you know, I do think a lot of this is like trying to protect one's ego, right? And so you set the bar so high because, and you see it said by some women. I can't believe I let him hurt me. I can't believe in other words, I can't believe I let this lowly Negro break my heart. I can't believe I let this lowly Negro play me. I can't believe I fell for this low level Negro, right? And Karine says, I never got into the name brand purses. Give me a good leather purse and I'm good. Mr. Z, I'm from South Florida. Y'all know at one point I was like a dandy, kind of still am. Mr. Z is not about if you have the means buying a couple of nice things. It's okay to have, a couple of nice things. These are the things you wear when you go to an event, or these are, you have that nice suit in the closet. You have a couple of nice pairs of shoes or a nice, tie and whatnot. For the ladies, maybe one or two nice bags. You tell yourself, I'm gonna. It's 2023. I want to have this bag by 2024, and it's especially if you can afford it, it's not gonna kill you. That's not what Mr. Z is against. But for black people, right, to overemphasize, and I know where it's coming from, right, to overemphasize like ostentatious wealth, and then look down on other black people that don't exhibit that, right? It's just insane. And Trell Bentley said the effing bourgeoisie. Exactly. Black women who largely come from working class, working poor, lower middle class, not even aspiring. We're talking about people that's no longer even aspiring for upper middle class. Like I say that all the time, right? Upper middle class, so rich and wealthy. No, they're not even aspiring to upper middle class. We're talking about a particular brand of people at absolute worst. If everything fails, they'll land on upper middle class in their mind. That's the worst. But they're aspiring for like literally Victorian, like a modern iteration of Victorian era opulence, right? Thank you. And Trell Bentley says, got their Gucci boots on the necks of the proletariat, right? And oftentimes these people aspire to be the buffer class Negroes that we speak of all the time, right? The Negro whisperers that translate black anger, black rage, right, for white folks, and they're put there to tamp it down, right? Particularly this brand of black woman. And Toya says, I got a compliment on my bag I got at TJ Maxx for less than $30 just yesterday. I believe it. I believe it. Happened to Mr. Z all the time. When people ain't know Mr. Z was online shopping, the clothes was looking nice. Them clothes wasn't that expensive like that, like that. It was pricey because I was buying a lot, but it wasn't pricey because of any one item, and that was often. Every once in a while, I do spend a couple of dollars on a particular item, but for the most part, it was just a lot of clothes Mr. Z was buying back in the day. So yes, right. But once again, speaking to the title, what happens when you want your relationship to be that class signifier? What happens when you want your relationship and you want your spouse to signify access, to signify opulence, to signify wealth, right? I think you get the Ostefkos of the world. This is why she wants a gorgeous man, right? You want your man to signify class. And this is also why, regardless of what For Harriet, Kim Foster says about not wanting to be with a blue collar man, one of the other reasons is because she wants her man to signify a certain level of access. It's not just not being able to have that certain um language that comes from a certain class, right? It's also because you want this person to represent a certain level of access, a certain level of wealth, or certain, even if you earn more than them. You want them to be able to parlay with others of that same class and you not be afraid, right? Meanwhile, didn't Brooks Brothers file for bankruptcy? Yikes, right? People demanding opulence in the era of hyperinflation or inflation at best. Let's say it's inflation. Let's not say it's hyperinflation yet. As I said to y'all before, I was done once Mr. Z saw COVID come and go, and these people still sounded actually they sounded worse post COVID, right? That's why I bring up all the time. Like I said, I'm not trying to make fun of these people. You're living with your parents. Speaking about opulence, and this goes back to what Dave Ramsey said, or was a story Dave Ramsey covered, not what he said, right? Young people can't afford to buy homes. They can barely afford to buy new cars. So they staying at home with their parents, buying nice luxury bags and clothes and going on expensive trips. Yeah, why not? But the ladies still want a particular lifestyle. You're only able to afford your lifestyle, the lifestyle you're able to afford with your 45, $50,000 because you're living at home with your parents and you don't have to pay no mortgage. Yes, Kareem, Mr. Z was a dandy. Definitely. Definitely. And Toya says, I laugh at this perpetuating fraud culture, authentic over ostentatious. Well, it's the fake it till you make it conversation, right? It's the fake it till you make it. And the fact that every once in a while a person actually makes it that's faking it gives all the other people hope, right? It gives all the others hope. I mean, Generation Z literally let Takashi 6ix9ine become a household name. I mean, like he's not really a household name, but like a household name in hip hop or in rap. Short Mexican dude with rainbow hair. They let this dude fake it till he make it and then get other people locked up. I'm just saying. So in that environment, yeah, real before fake, but some of us will fake it until we it's the concept that I say all the time. The people that their business model is selling you on business, right? Right? It's the people that their business model is selling you on business, you know? Trell Bentley said, rainbow hair and no bars. You feel me? Right? Wayne is losing his goddamn hair and he's still got the weird blonde-ish dreads in his head. And we give him a pass because at least he got bars. The dude then said some anti-black things and people give him a pass because at least he got bars. Takashi didn't have no bars and he was walking around here with rainbow teeth and hair. Right? So, so once again, what do relationships look like in the era of conspicuous consumption when the women are telling you it's either this lifestyle or nothing, it's this or nothing, right? What does it look like? And I think we're living through it right now, right? We're living through it right now to the detriment of the black community, to the detriment of this overall society, Western society. Women are telling you, I make enough to put the bar at impossible and then be mad at all the men that don't reach it, right? So yeah, Dr. Green Gorilla covering this once again. I mean, it's Dr. Green Gorilla, right? Great job covering and reading through the articles. Once again, Dr. Green Gorilla, being the person that he is, he's not pulling anything out of his rear end, and he go back in history on your ass to show you I'm not just pulling these things out of my rear end. So the question is, how bad did this conversation about money and lifestyle and over romanticizing with women a century ago were living, how bad did it get where your daughters are speaking about living an ostentatious lifestyle or nothing, having a man that's a baller or nothing? And how does that then affect the black community when the bar is some uber rich wealthy white dude who these women don't find attractive anyway? The bar is Mark Zuckerberg, right? The bar is the Google guys, right? How bad how bad has neoliberalism bitten women in the rear end, particularly black women, with their market valuation of everything, including men? And then how does that then reverberate in the black community? If we're living through the era of conspicuous consumption, do we not think that also then affects intimacy and relationships and pair bonding, right? And if we do think that it didn't affect those things, what, how, how, where's the gap? These people aren't doing the social math. They think they're going to be the one. You're not. But on that note, everyone, I say it all the time, capitalism solves everything with the market. Hey, but there's certain things that can't be solved with a market valuation, right? And shout out to you, Better You. Thank you for the comment. There's certain things that can't be solved with this, and we're watching the women live it and still not know it. And on that note, I really got to end out, so we're gonna do our exit real quick in a hurry today. Um, love, peace, and chicken grease. I'll pause right there. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. I think Dr. Thunder is gonna be probably starting a stream in a minute, so y'all go check out Dr. Thunder and Mr. Z out. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. I'm probably gonna come with a midday stream because I really want to start. You know, I really want to start having a class conversation. You know, and delve into it a little bit more than I do now, right? So, and that's important. Um, because it's not about being anti-money. I mean, we really want money in the Black community. Like, we really need money, right? Um, and other resources. It's not about being anti that. What it is about, though, is the way we're talking about money as a group of people that are largely working class and poor, right? And on that note, y'all have a great rest of y'all Z. Great rest of y'all Z. Listen to Mr. Z. Great rest of y'all day, and I'm out. All right, y'all.